Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. The negotiations regarding appointments for key EU institutions are close to a breakthrough. As well as Poland, other Visegrad Group countries, along with Italy, oppose Franz Timmermans' candidacy. The current German Minister of Defence, Ursula von der Leyen, has become the new name in contention for the presidency of the European Commission. Today, the European Parliament met for the first time after the May elections.
Candidacy, German Defence Minister Ursula von der Leyen has a chance to take the post of the President of the European Commission. EU's Tusk proposed von der Leyen as EU Commission Chief. According to diplomatic sources, von der Leyen's candidacy is acceptable to Poland. Our country's delegation will not be opposing it.
Nowe czasy potrzebują nowych ludzi, nowych idei.
New times require new people, new ideas, new openings. Therefore, the criteria we laid out in the very beginning are so important to us. We want the candidates to be chosen on the basis of a full geographical balance. Naturally, it is also important that these candidates be open-minded and open-hearted towards Europe, which is not equally developed as of yet. The European Parliament, which today met at the inaugural session of the new term, will have an important role to play in the game for key positions in the EU institutions. This session was not without demonstrations. During the solemn celebration of the European Union anthem, 28 Brexit Party deputies turned their backs on the rest of the European Parliament members.
The opposition in Poland still seems unsure on how to approach the parliamentary elections in autumn. There is debate as to whether the parties should form new coalitions or, despite suffering a defeat in the recent European Parliament elections, try to take on the ruling Law and Justice Party on their own. According to the newest pre-election polls, the inability to adapt a united strategy is damaging the opposition's support.
According to a survey conducted by the IBRIS pollster on a group of around 1,000 people, there are two possible outcomes to the upcoming parliamentary elections, depending on whether the opposition unites or not. If the opposition doesn't unite, the Law and Justice Party would get 40% of the votes, and the Civic Platform almost 20%. The Spring Party, Democratic Left Alliance and Cookies 15 movement would also enter the parliament. Other parties would end up way below the electoral threshold. On the other hand, if the opposition did unite, then according to the survey, the Modern and Polish People's Party would enter the parliament, ending up with 28.5% of the votes, along with the Civic Platform Party. By forming such a coalition, the three parties could take away the votes of the Cookies 15 movement, which wouldn't pass the electoral threshold. However, this wouldn't necessarily be bad news for the Law and Justice Party, which would gain 2% in the case of the opposition uniting, raising its support to 42.5%. According to political scientist Dr. Bartłomiej Biskup, the unification of the opposition boosting the outcome from both major parties is a natural occurrence. With a united opposition, there are fewer alternatives, so it's only natural that people would vote for either of the main blocs or refrain from voting at all. Professor Kazimierz Kik stresses that even if the opposition unites for the elections, it will still be lacking in identity. Any survey leading to the conclusion that the opposition's unity would bear success is based on a false assumption. It's identity and reliability that people look up to. In this case, the reliability and identity of the Law and Justice Party is undeniable, and the same can be said for a coalition of several parties. Civic Platform Party MP Marcin Święcicki is of the opinion that thanks to the united opposition, the votes to mandates ratio would be better than in the case of a few smaller parties trying to prevail on their own. Some don't want to see such a wide alliance, so the opposition has to face this dilemma: how big should the alliance be, and will it help or damage our results? The talks are taking place all the time. Tonight we have another debate. The current government was formed on November 12, 2015, which means that by August 14th we will know exactly when the parliamentary elections will take place. Voters will receive two ballots, where they will be able to choose one candidate to the Sejm and Senate.
500,000 applications for the extension of the 500+ social benefit programme have been registered. The funds from the extended programme, which launched just yesterday, could potentially reach almost 7 million children. Since the programme's inception in April 2016, Polish families have received over 7 billion zloty.
The situation is under control. We created a special emergency team to deal with the high number of applicants. Indeed, the reception is wonderful. In the first hour we got 10,000 applications. Today it was already 1 million, and we are now reaching 1.5 million. With such high interest, we encountered issues with the Empatia and Zeus platforms, but we are dealing with all the problems manually. Also, it's not like someone won't be able to apply in time. Everything will be paid from the 1st of August and September, so we are glad it's all going according to plan.
Germany's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Heiko Maas, has warned that the relations will deteriorate between the two countries unless Italy releases Carola Rackete, the German captain of Sea-Watch 3. Rackete rammed an Italian patrol boat as she illegally sailed into Italy's territorial waters in order to disembark 40 African migrants. Rackete is the first person to be prosecuted in Italy for breaching Minister of Interior Matteo Salvini's security decree, which was passed in Parliament last year.
During a press conference following a meeting with his Danish counterpart, Heiko Maas called the arrest of Carola Rackete unacceptable and stated that Italy must release Rackete or expect an escalation in the dispute over migration between Italy and Germany.
I can accept that
In particolare è stato
We consider the maneuver that was carried out, and particularly the squashing of the police boat against the quay, in a particularly negative light. We believe it to be a deliberate act that was consciously carried out. We do not think this was an act that was necessary. There was no state of necessity between the Sea-Watch, which had been moored outside port, had received medical assistance and was in continual contact with maritime and police authorities for every kind of assistance. The Italian court is expected to announce later tonight whether Rackete will be released or if the process will continue.
Thank you very much for joining me here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily weather. It's followed by the business, culture, history and finally the travel.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. Plenty of sunlight in the whole country. We don't expect any rainfalls that day. The temperature will range from 18 degrees on the north to 23 on the south. And now let's see tomorrow's forecast for our continent. In Scandinavia, temperature will fall to 17 degrees in Oslo and Helsinki. In Central Europe, temperature will range from 23 to 26 degrees. The highest temperature will be in Rome, 35 degrees. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Poland Daily Business Edition, and we will talk about energy tonight with our energy consultant, Jeffrey Puzzi. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you again.
Let us start the discussion from the hike of prices of oil. Actually, they went down because the crucial oil discussion right now is between the United States and Iran.
Well, the crucial oil discussion would be the trade wars, and this was putting a lot of downward pressure on oil prices. Specifically, you saw crude oil in the past year have a range of about $45. This is for the WTI contract. There's two contracts that people will look at, WTI and Brent, are the main financial contracts. And you've seen WTI between $45 and about $66. It's currently trading about 56, 57. And the deterrent was the trade wars. But at the same time, there's a very major factor pushing up prices, and that is the problems that the U.S. and Iran are seeing. And there's very much concern about the stability in the Middle East.
Okay, the producers would like the price go up to $80, $90 range. Is that possible?
Seeing oil going up to $90, I don't think that's possible. I do think we should see a rally in oil prices as we get towards the end of the year. And this is looking at different fundamentals, not just the stuff with Iran. I think spikes like that, when there's instability, are usually short term. But something that is going to have probably an effect for all of 2020 is there's some changes in regulations with the type of fuel that ships can burn. And this is called IMO 2020. And it states that ships have to start burning, instead of 3.5% sulfur fuel, they have to go down to 0.5%. So this is going to have a pull on different types of crude, that you get more distillate production, and distillate is something like a diesel, let's say,
right,
to kind of simplify this.
Well, that's another process that adds up to the price of the fuel.
Well, yes. So you have your refinery runs, and certain crudes produce more of different parts of the barrel. So diesel is just, this is called a middle distillate, diesel, jet fuel, kerosene, but then you have like the bottom of the barrel, which is heavy fuel oil, which is mostly what ships burn right now.
Okay, so there are like two versions. First, you can have an installation that will distillate sulfur from the fuel.
Yeah, so that you can have what's called a scrubber. This is one solution. Another solution is to burn a new fuel, which is going to be 0.5% fuel oil. And 0.5% fuel oil is more or less a distillate with some of the dirty stuff thrown in.
Right, right.
Or you can burn, which is currently burned in all the ECA areas. So this is in Europe, the North Sea, the Baltic Sea, down the English Channel, all the way to Gibraltar. And this is 0.1%. It's called a DMA, and it's more or less it's a gas oil. So, and then there's there's two other solutions, LNG, but right now the infrastructure is not there for LNG ships. There are some people that are doing this, but you can't say this is a huge percentage solution.
I'm not sure even the LNG tankers are burning LNG for their propulsion.
You have some tankers that are, but it is such a low number at this current time. Again, the infrastructure needs a lot more investment to get there, but it could be a solution for the future.
Okay, so we will see this very interesting. I remember the times when anything that has happened in the world economy or in the Near East pushed the oil price over $120 per barrel. Right now we are in the 60s and you cannot get more. What happened to the world economy? Why do we need less oil than we used to?
No, oil demand is growing, but the shale industry in the U.S. has pumped a massive amount. The U.S. is now the largest producer of oil in the world, and I don't see that turning back anytime soon. OPEC's lost some control because of this. And oil prices, just at this current time, make a lot more sense between 60 and 80. Part of the reason we were able to go so high, oil prices were depressed for so long that there wasn't investment in new technology, new oil finds, and you just didn't have the production coming in. So if you don't have investment for new production, you're going to see prices spike. And I'm sure there's other factors that shot us all the way to 147, but realistically, oil prices in the future should probably stay stable between, I'd say, $60 and $80. Maybe you see 50, maybe you see 40, but probably 60 and 80.
U.S. shale is a phenomenon right now. Are there any other countries that would like to use this technology for their domestic oil production?
You know, I think everyone's looking at the U.S. as a model. Let's see who else kind of gets involved more with the shale production.
Okay, but that's definitely the way we can expect to happen. Another the miracle of the energy market is LNG. Poland is benefiting from that in a way?
Yeah, Poland's importing actually a little bit of LNG from the United States. I know their terminal that opened in 2015 is already expanding. There are talks about an offshore floating terminal in Gdansk. And I do think, like, if you look at Poland, some of their energy, everyone to get to 2050, which Europe has their own plans, but everyone kind of needs to think about their country in a sense, what works best for somewhat of energy dependence, somewhat of where can I get multiple types of energy so I'm not dependent on too many places. And LNG right now is, you know, what is it, between 3 and 5% of what's being used in Poland, and I think there's great potential for growth there. And you could see Poland become a player in the Baltic Sea when it comes to LNG. This can kind of be the hub. This will be like a hub airport in Frankfurt, but in Poland, you're the LNG kings.
Right. From your point of view, the price for LNG that we get from the United States is lower than the price from Russia?
You know, price doesn't always matter as long as you can keep it economical. Because again, I don't think you want to buy all your energy needs from one place. Things can happen. You don't ever know what happens. So with whatever price has been paid, I'm sure it's economical. There's times there's very cheap LNG, but then you need to take in shipping cost, and infrastructure and shipping costs pay so much in trade. So it is, of course, easiest to always get from your neighbor. But again, you don't want to buy 100% from your neighbor. You want to say,
especially if the neighbor is Russia, that is using this energy weapon as a political tool.
Yeah, I mean, it is possible. They do use that with certain countries. We've seen it over and over again.
This is not uncommon in the energy market when the countries are trying to use their position as an energy provider to extend their political influences.
Yeah, I won't disagree there, that energy can definitely be used as a major political factor and an influential factor, because we can't run without a proper energy plan.
That's true. In the future, is the oil declining? Like the electric cars will shave the market for oil?
You know, I think the bigger effect than electric cars could be the new car sharing services, that it's making sense in certain major metropolitan areas where there's no reason for me to own a car anymore. And if you have that, that should have an effect on oil consumption in the future. That's one thing that I think naturally kind of goes forward, rather than there being a huge electric car infrastructure. I don't see the electric car infrastructure in the future.
You have to produce that energy anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You still have to produce it, but there's other ways, such as we talked about natural gas. That's one way to get very cheap production.
Very interesting insight. Jeffrey Puzzi, energy consultant, sir. Thank you very much. Very interesting conversation, and that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tonight. A warm night across the country with temperatures ranging between 10 degrees in Zielona Góra to 13 degrees in Koszalin. Light overcast will appear in most regions. Cloudless sky we will see over Wrocław. And now over to tomorrow. Plenty of sunlight in the whole country. We don't expect any rainfalls that day. The temperature will range from 18 degrees on the north to 23 degrees on the south. Let's see the forecast for the following 3 days. Thursday will be very sunny day all over Poland with maximum 24 degrees. On Friday, temperature will range from 20 to 25 degrees. Pressure will fall. On the Saturday, weather will be very similar, with temperature ranging from 18 to 25 degrees. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Poland Daily Culture. My guest today is Maciej Syka, with whom I'll be discussing films and religion. Hello, Maciej. Welcome to Poland Daily Culture, and thank you for joining us today.
Hello everybody, thank you.
What do you think is people's perception on your films, people who are near you, from what you've heard?
Nowadays, we producing some films here in Poland, and I think we should ask them. But we never show our films in the theaters. We always organize screenings with Q&A. So the screenings take place at the universities, and it's always packed. I think that in Poland, so when our friends from the US, they regularly visit Poland. So when Jeffrey Aziz, one of the producers, Joseph Campo, Michael Campo, when they visit Poland, they always see full houses. It shows that Poland has, I would say, something special. People in Poland, in my opinion, they still have a great devotion for the deepest values that always existed in Europe. People search here for some truths, I would say.
I agree.
And, you know, this is something special. You will never find it somewhere else. I think that more and more foreigners visit Poland because they know that Poland has special spirituality.
They visit and they stay, I think.
Yeah.
Many people move to Poland because they feel this energy here.
Yeah, that's a true story. So for example, last year we shot it in Bethlehem. We shot it there, a film called House of Peace. It's a beautiful place there, a house for 45 orphans led by one sister. One sister. So all the children from Gaza, from the places where, you know, bombs are everywhere, they know House of Peace because it's a safe zone there. They receive one meal there and they receive love there. So this is a beautiful place in Bethlehem, and we shoot it there, 25 minutes documentary. Right now we are sending this film for the festivals. And it was a beautiful experience being there with our crew. And we do believe that nowadays we can change the world. Last week we met one guy. He won a competition here, a TV program, I don't know, a fashion model or something. I forgot. His name is Shimon Reich. This guy is 21 years old, and right now we are drinking coffee regularly after every 2 days. He's 21, he's on Instagram, he's on YouTube, and even though he's a fashion model, he wants to make a world a better place. So we are very happy meeting such people. And in Poland, I would say it's a big number of them. And it gives us hope that you don't have to buy clothes, you don't have to wear, you know, all of this stuff. No, it's not, the world, I think it's not about clothes, it's not about money, it's about who you are and what's inside you. That's my opinion.
Maciej Syka, a film producer associated since 2008 with the Grassroots Film Studio from New York, responsible for worldwide distribution and screenings of The Human Experience and Outcast's Grey Angels. Privately, he graduated from economics at Academies Australasia in Sydney, Australia.
Do you think that people, like over the years from when you started making the movies until now, do you think people changed in Poland or their approach towards the church?
Absolutely. I think that they are changing for better. We produce also a film called Child 31. Child 31 is a 25 minutes documentary showing Mary's Meals in action. Mary's Meals is a foundation with its roots in Scotland, led by one guy, Magnus. They are big. These guys are big. Every day they feed one children, they give one hot meal to 1 million children every day. If you Google Mary's Meals, these guys are big. So last month, Mary's Meals office was opened by 2 girls from Gdańsk. So Mary's Meals Foundation was opened in Poland. And yeah, I would say when we travel through the schools, through the primary schools, through the high school, we visited so far more than 300 schools all over Poland with our films. I would say that many, many young people, they want to make a difference because they are bored with all of these commercials, with all of these ads. They are saying right now in Hollywood that there is a new tendency to show valuable things, to show something with values, to show films with values. People, I think, are bored with all of these, useless stuff, showing nothing special.
How many romantic comedies can we watch? I mean,
come on. Yeah. So, yeah, I remember that was magic. It was last year or 2 years ago. Jim Caviezel, the guy who, played Jesus Christ in Passion, Mel Gibson's Passion. He visited Poland. We had dinner with him, and for us it was a precious experience. He said that they are shooting Passion #2, and it will start from the resurrection scene. And he said that they are planning with Mel Gibson to shoot such a scene that the world never seen before. So if you're asking me about films, we cannot forget the #1 film that scored so many Oscars, 14 Oscars, it never happened in the history, was Jude Ben-Hur. So it's still #1. It's a film completely with a Christian, maybe not Christian, but with a human message of love, mercy, and hope. So we want to follow such productions. We are developing, we're trying our best. We are a young crew because we consist of 7 of guys, and both in the US, in New York City, and in Warsaw, and we trying to do our best.
So to end our conversation, I would like to ask you, where can one find your movies? Are they all on YouTube?
Child 31 is on YouTube. The Human Experience is on YouTube. God in the Streets of New York City is on YouTube. Fishers of Men is on YouTube. Certainty, our newest production, will be on special screenings, I think, all over Europe since May 2019. So it started. The shows, the screenings are starting, and then House of Peace you can watch on the festivals from autumn 2019.
Thank you, Maciej, very much, and congratulations to all your work.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. You guys the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we are visiting the Polish Central Bank and the Center of Money, where they provide education on the history of various world currencies and the Polish zloty. Join us as we learn about the 1,000 years of history of the Polish currency. During our visit to the NBP Money Center, we will speak with Adam Skrauta from the Education and Publishing Department of Narodowy Bank Polski. The Polish Central Bank functions under its current name since 1945, but is a continuation of 2 earlier banks operating in the 19th and early 20th century, serving a similar function. We're here today at the Polish Central Bank talking about the Polish currency, the Polish zloty, and I was wondering when we were discussing the central bank, because as we know there were three different central banks throughout the Polish history. And in a different era, were they performing different functions? Are they similar in a way? What are the different things that the different central banks perform?
Every central bank in every country has one core duty, that is to issue currency, but also protect its value. And as European economies were becoming more complex in the 19th century, the need to establish a central bank or a central institution to look after the issue of currency was very apparent, and the same case was in Poland. So the first central bank on Polish territory was established in 1828. Its name was very intuitive. It was just the Bank of Poland.
All right.
And of course, it was issuing Polish zloty. And about its other purposes, it was also the bank of government. So central offices, central institutions had their accounts in this bank. And interestingly enough, it was also the biggest investment bank of the time.
Okay.
So it provided a lot of credit for investment, factories, infrastructure, mines, and so on. We can say that at some point it was the biggest player on this in this field. But of course, it's quite unusual, and nowadays central banks are not involved in this anymore. And back to our Polish history, the establishment of the second central bank is connected with reintroduction of Polish zloty. So again, it was supposed to be responsible for its issuing, but also for protecting its value. And also as time was passing by in the 20th century, central banks began supervising other banks. It wasn't very obvious originally, but in free market economies it became more and more important to have a central so-called bankers' bank to supervise other commercial banks. When we talk about our present central bank, Narodowy Bank Polski, its history changed a lot because, as we mentioned earlier, when it was established in 1945, it was operating in a different economic reality. However, when Poland was transforming into a free market economy at the beginning of the 90s of the 20th century, its purpose had to be completely overhauled and remodeled.
Right.
So it took several years to transform Narodowy Bank Polski into the institution that it is now. And we can say that nowadays Narodowy Bank Polski is a fully independent central bank that operates like any other central bank in European Union. So we say that it has its basic duty is to protect the value of money, so to keep inflation at a low level.
Of course.
And we often say that Narodowy Bank Polski has three functions.
Okay.
So it's, of course, it's issuing bank. It's bankers' bank, so supervising other commercial banks.
Of course.
But also the banker to the government.
Right.
So again, state accounts are kept here at Narodowy Bank Polski.
All right. The NBP Money Center opened to guests in 2016, but was the brainchild of the president of Narodowy Bank Polski, Sławomir Skrzypek, who headed the central bank between 2007 and 2010. Next up, we will ask Mr. Skrauta about which activities the NBP Money Center attract visitors the most.
So this place where we're standing at right now, the Center of Money, it was opened in 2016, as I recall. I was wondering if you can tell me a little bit about the purpose of this place and who are the visitors, what are the things that intrigue them the most?
So the idea of establishing such a facility was born a few years earlier. It was the idea of one of the presidents of Narodowy Bank Polski, Sławomir Skrzypek. And it took several years to design this place, to determine what content do we need, and finally construction works. And the most important purpose of this place is economic education. So we teach about history of money, history of banking, central banking, but also modern finances, and some entertainment like an opportunity to visit a vault and touch a real gold bar. And we try to accommodate to everyone's needs. So starting from small kids to senior people who also are very interested in history. And we offer different activities here. So you can come as an individual visitor and just look around, but you can also have a guided tour. For students, we have special educational offer. So they can find out more about various topics connected with economy. And also we take active part in annual events, like for example the museums nights, when everyone can visit and have some fun and special offer prepared. The International Children's Day, and many others. So I'd like to invite all of you, to visit us and see for yourself how much fun economy can be.
As we have seen today, the history of the Polish zloty is long, but at times tumultuous, with wars, invasions, and periodical financial crises. However, today, the Polish Central Bank has managed to keep the value of the Polish zloty stable and secure. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
What can you say about Torun that hasn't been said before? Well, it all depends on how you look at it. At any rate, we're going to give it our best shot to be a little different. Torun is perhaps the prime example of Gothic architecture in the world. Its medieval quality is virtually pristine. And fitting this setting, it's also the birthplace of Nicholas Copernicus, who taught us that the Earth goes around the sun, and not the other way around. I'm not going to say that this is everything you always wanted to know about Torun, but were afraid to ask, but it's close to it. This is certainly a city not to be missed. It's a pleasure to be enjoyed slowly and deliberately. It would take a couple of weeks to see everything in this city and really soak in the atmosphere, and that would still be pushing it. But we are doing our dead level best to show you the greatest hits of Torun. So sit back and enjoy the next few episodes as Torun is unveiled before your eyes. I'm Will, this is Poland Daily Travel, and we Love to see you watching. Like us on YouTube and subscribe if you really, really like us. So join us for Poland Daily Travel does Torun.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Poland Daily Travel. We have an exciting segment, Unexpected, because as we were leaving the Copernicus house, we ran into the esteemed curator of this here place, which is really a lot of fun. As you can see, we are sitting down at a table in a medieval fashion.
Yes, of course.
This is Michał Kłosiński. Michał,
hello.
Thanks for letting us come in. You've been very kind to us. We appreciate it tremendously. And I hope everybody watching this, you've got to come here and see this wonderful museum and meet Michał and his staff and see the beautiful city. Michał, is this a typical room of the time?
Yes, yes. This is a typical room from medieval times, from late medieval times,
right.
From times when the Nicolaus Copernicus' childhood was very fascinated, yes. And this is the typical merchant house. But we need to remember that this building was played two roles. First, this is the private life, for everyday life for merchants, for inhabitants of this house. And the second, and this house played second role, it was the big magazine, big store.
Storeroom,
yes,
warehouse.
Yes, storeroom
yeah.
For the merchandise, which was traded by the merchants.
Mm-hmm.
For example, for Nicolaus Copernicus' father, who was a merchant, of course, too.
He was a very rich man.
Yes,
yes. Very influential man.
Very influential man with Torun. He was in German. And so
also working in Germany. This is part of the Hanseatic trade of the time.
Yes.
What were the main cities? There was Torun.
Torun, for example, but in Poland, Krakow too, but Krakow, of course the Lübeck, Bremen, London, for example, and Antwerpen. Antwerpen, yes. And Hamburg.
Copenhagen.
Copenhagen, yes.
These kind of cities.
Many towns, many cities in the area of Baltic Sea, yes.
In the area of the Baltic, yes. So that would include maybe Stockholm, would that have been one or not?
Yes, also.
Yeah. So all the major cities of the time, Oslo and all those places around the Baltic. Okay, what was a typical family's life like in Torun at that time?
Yes, for example, this table is the show how the merchant family eating in these times.
Really? I didn't know they had plastic fish then.
You know, plastic, yes, but you...
No, these are representations.
It's a representation.
Yes. Oh, we're supposed to use our imagination. Impossible for me. Okay, I see your point. And the sort of glassware and everything is typical of the time?
Typical glass for this time. For example, these items, it's known the remmer. In Polish, this is remmer.
Okay. And this was for drinking wine? Or
Wine.
Okay. And this kind of ceramic thing would have been?
Yes, for the beer.
This is for beer?
Yes.
Really? Making me thirsty
beer and
here.
wine.
Now.
We don't know exactly.
I'm getting thirsty.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it could be for beer or water. You know. Did they drink water? Not really.
Drink water? Yes, of course.
Did they drink water?
Why not?
I always heard they drank beer in the Middle Ages because the water was not clean, but never mind. And this glass would have been blown with using a long tube, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
they would have made the glass.
Yes.
I happen to know, tell me if this is true, I happen to have read that Poland was very famous for glass, making glass. Is that true in this time?
No, Torun maybe not, and Poland maybe not, but the Czech, for example.
Oh, the Czech Republic.
Yes.
It was very popular.
Yes, it's more boring.
Okay. And so Nicholas Copernicus grew up in this house, in this very house. He walked in this very room. Yeah.
Yes, but we need to remember that the Nicolaus Copernicus family owned this house till 1483. For 1883, because in this
1483.
83, yes, because in this year Nicolaus Copernicus' father died, and the family sold this house and removed to second house by Old Market number 36. But in 1491, Nicolaus Copernicus left Torun and arrived to Krakow, when he studied on Jagiellonian Academy.
And the University, the
yes,
Jagiellonian University.
Jagiellonian today. and next in Italy, and next he returned to Poland, but to the Warmia. The bishop of Warmia.
Right, to the Lake District, which is,
for example, to
the east, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
to north.
Oh, to Olsztyn.
To Olsztyn, for
right.
example, to Frombork and Braniewo.
And Olsztyn was where there was a big observatory, right?
In Olsztyn, yes.
You could watch the stars.
Yes.
I'd like to see that. It was in the castle in Olsztyn?
Yes, it's castle of the bishop of the Warmia.
Oh, wow. We've got to go to Olsztyn sometime. I bet that'd be fun. We'll go. We're going to go with a show sometime to Olsztyn. That's going to be a lot of fun. It's beautiful there, really. It's very nice here, too. But this is making me really hungry, and I can't eat anything. I don't know. Stay tuned, folks. I think we're going to go get something to eat. Michał, thank you very much.
Thank you very much
for letting us come in. You've been very kind, and we really do appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks.
Stay tuned, folks. We'll be back. I got to go find Carolina. I hope she hasn't wandered off. We paid her to stay with us. She could be double timing us with another group. We got to find her.